Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to what is the 12th episode of The Artist's Well. The intention of this is to have a group of artists gaining or drawing inspiration from other artists from all around the world, and to share things like technique, process, how they work their workspace, any sort of tips they have, anything like that. So that's the whole purpose of it. And I'm delighted that today we have none other than Colleen Blackard, who's going to be our featured artist today. Welcome, Colleen.
Hi, Alan. Thank you so much for having me on. This is wonderful.
A pleasure. Now, I suppose I can't start by asking, with a name like Colleen, there has to be some sort of Irish connection, is there?
Yes, absolutely. My grandmother is from Galway.
Okay. And
yeah.
How did they end up being in Texas?
Yeah, she was actually a war bride. She met my granddad when she was over in London, when he was over in the Air Force. So, yeah, and then they moved all over and ended up in Texas.
Very good. So you're in Austin, Texas, not because you want to be necessarily, although I know you're in the family home and you love your family.
I'm really happy to be here, yeah.
Your studio is in Brooklyn, New York. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So when you got wind of things coming, you took flight down to Austin.
That's right. Yeah, I escaped New York in March, and I'm really grateful to be here during all of this. I'm back surrounded by nature and with my family, so I'm really grateful.
Fabulous. So in effect now you've got two studios.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the one behind me that I've been working on, and my permanent one there.
Very good. So tell us, have you always had an interest in art? Does this go back to your childhood, does it?
Yes, absolutely. I've always been using drawing as a way to express myself from a really early age, and just kept going with it. And then college got the confidence to really take it on as a career, with drawing and painting.
Yeah. And very shortly after leaving college, you headed for New York.
Yeah, that's correct. Most of my community was already headed there, so it felt like the natural progression, and it was where I wanted to be for my art career as well.
And is New York the center of the universe in terms of art, is it?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yeah. In fact, right when I first got there, I jumped off the plane and went to my first opening. So I was there for my art career.
And how did you find your space? Did you was that something that you'd organized in advance with some friends or anything like that, or how did you find it?
My studio space, or
yeah.
Oh, yeah. A friend posted the one I had for 4 years. A friend posted it on Facebook that they were looking for a studio mate, and I jumped on it. But yeah, I've had quite a few studios there, and yeah.
And how did you sort of integrate yourself into the art world in New York?
Oh, well, the last 10 years, yeah, I've really been going to gallery openings a lot. Like when I first got there, yeah, I started out going to openings every night I could, and then I kind of started going every week with a group of friends, and we just kind of treated it like our church. Like we would go and see the artwork everywhere we could every Thursday. So I did that for a few years, and now I'm more selective. I think I go to the ones for the artists I really admire and the work that really inspires me.
But I think there's a bit of a lesson in there for other people, aspiring artists, that to get your name out there and to meet people and all that. I mean, as you said, there's an opening almost every day, I'm sure, in New York. Here it seems to be Thursdays.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. That's a great way to do it. Great way to do it.
Yeah, and I also started doing press as well. I would go and document the openings I went to, so I found that was a good way to connect as well and share the work that I loved.
Yeah, very good, very good. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to discuss, do a little studio visit there with you. And I know you have your dad, as you've appointed him, camera person. So he's going to do that as well, which is wonderful. And that's going to be a bit of a help. And then after that, what we'll do is we'll go over to the slide presentations where we've got images of your studio in Brooklyn, and also images of your work, and we can talk through that as well. But at this stage, maybe you can just show us around. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, let's go. That was great handheld. So this is my current working space, and I want to start. Here's a lot of the books that I've been reading this year. I have like one on color that I'm really into. Here's Autumn's book that I'm reading through, and a lot of Irish mythology and hidden life of trees and Sontag. And yeah, some of the work I've been doing. Here's my sketchbooks that I've been working on. everything's kind of separated of our time there in Killarley. I'll show a little bit more of that later, but this is the actual book. And then here, this actually to show, this is my go bag. My studio is usually not here. I usually go out into nature while I'm home. And so I created this giant canvas bag out of old canvas to truck it all. And then here's my paints that I've been using. I really love using the golden open ones because they have a lot longer time. And yeah, and I've been using...
Are they acrylic or oils or what?
Yes, I've been using exclusively acrylic. And I love the open because it doesn't dry as fast. I mean, in the hot sun, it's hard to keep anything open for long, but that's my favorite brand. Using the mixes with azer tartar, sometimes open thinner, which really gives it a little bit more of that feel of doing like washes in oil. But yeah, here's my little easel temporarily set up here with my palette, and yeah.
And that's what you use outside, yeah?
Yeah, that's correct. That's my whole portable palette setup. And then here's a lot of the work that I've been creating while I've been out there. Like out here in Texas, there's a ton of cacti. So I've just been, that one I sat in the shade for a few mornings. I think it took about a week, just out there every day, figuring out the light and the color, and it's been really fun. And then all of these here, using a lot of different kind of surprising colors to get a color harmony, working on that. And yeah, I really love that one.
Is this all work you've been doing in the last 6 months, say?
The last 2 months, I think. Yeah, July and June and July and some of August, I guess, last couple months. But yeah, this monochrome study, really was just, usually I've been working all about light and in monochrome, so then to turn to doing full palette, this has been a real challenge and really exciting. Here's some more over here. Tons of new work, and they're usually very quick. I want to get in before the light changes, so they're only like 1 or 2 sessions. This one of the wind. Oh, and here's my setup with all my other supplies. I've got watercolor and my monotype. I've been doing a lot of that as well. Use a gelatin monotype.
Can you explain how that works for people?
Yeah, totally. I got this great one. It's Speedball. And it's just like, it's a printmaking process where I'm painting directly on this surface and then transferring it to paper. And because it has this gelatin quality, it transfers the whole tone without the pressure of a press. So it's been really wonderful to take it outside to do quick monotypes, and in the studio without press access, it's been really great.
Very good.
But yeah, some more paintings as well.
Do you paint on a canvas all the time, or do you have boards, or do you different things?
I do different things. These are on panel, and I was really preferring that for a while because I've been doing monotype, and you can use kind of wiping techniques with it and get this nice smooth finish. But lately I've been doing a lot of canvas as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's it.
Very good.
It's my studio.
Ever use linen?
What's that?
Do you ever use linen?
Oh yes, I love using linen because that has that same kind of feeling, almost like panel of it being directly on the surface. But I haven't used that recently since I've been using paint in a more opaque way. I haven't really needed it for wiping as much. So canvas has been just great.
Yeah. So is linen a lot smoother?
All right. Let's see. Yeah, for me, I found that it is. Yeah, it feels like it really doesn't absorb as much into the canvas, so you get those more immediate strokes.
Yeah, very good, very good. Okay, so look, let's share a screen here, and I'm going to bring up your the PowerPoint that you and I worked on. Okay, so where are we, Colleen?
Yes, this was my Greenpoint studio of 4 years. Oh, I love this space. Yeah, it's right next to the East River, like just to walk right down. So yeah, this was my studio, and here I worked on these 10-foot pieces directly on the wall. Just really enjoyed that light. There's my drawing easel in the back, or my drawing table. So yeah. And
the one on the left there, that's a huge one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a 10 feet tall piece from the series, the Abandoned series, which I can go into later. But the thing I loved about it was working so large. So you have to like look up to see the piece, like looking at the stars, kind of surrounded by it. I love that feeling.
So you have a ladder handy, have you?
Yeah, I had to get a ladder. Oh, it was great.
Okay.
My ladder. Yeah, here's another view of the studio with my chaise and everything. I have to have a chaise. It's just the best. So I can sit there and look at the work. Yeah, that's all my monotypes and drawings. Oh yes, and then here's my other drawing table in the back, and I've got all my painting supplies available there. Everything's kind of underneath in this picture because this is for open studios, so everything's tightly put away more than it would be. But, and then in the very back, the next picture has more of it. This is my giant shelf that I built. I love this thing. It's like incredibly secure. But I used it for all my storage, my art, like up at the top. And then I created this kind of main area so that I could do a model of my barn, which I'll talk more about later, and use that space as this kind of tabletop setup.
Yeah, very good. Now, I wanted to show this because Vincent, who's with us, produced this.
Yeah, it's a remarkable painting. Gosh, I love it so much. He really captured the feel of it. But yeah, that was me in my studio. He came for a visit one time, and we got these great photos. But, I miss that space.
Yeah, and there's one more that we've included as well, which is you on the stairway. Is it somewhere?
Yeah, Life in New York. Yeah, this is my old apartment. Another one that Vincent did. It's just incredible. Can't believe he really captured that.
I put up one of Vincent. Well, sorry, the previous one on Instagram with a link to Vincent's Instagram
wonderful
as well. So if anybody wants to follow that, they're very welcome to do so.
Great. Yay.
Now, the next one is something that I put in, which you don't know about, which is you with a guy called Jerry Saltz. Now, for those of you who don't know Jerry Saltz, Jerry is, well, firstly, he's got 1,000 more followers than I do. Not that I begrudge him that, but he is the New York Magazine, senior art critic. And he is the funniest, straight-talking guy you've ever come across in your life. He is completely irreverent. You find anything about him, look him up. I mean, he'll just knock you out, to your head in completely. But he's a very, very powerful man in the art world in New York, and I'm sure beyond that. And he's just hilarious. He's also married to an art critic who he believes is far better than himself. He's very powerful.
She's incredible. Yes, this was so great. I was here with Laura. We went to an art fair, and Laura's on the call. And he was very generous with his time. Like, he asked us if we wanted to walk into the fair with him and take a photo. And it was just the most magnetic experience to be with someone like this who's so incredible in the art world. Like, everybody's looking to him like, Jerry, like the whole art Peace Gallery, everybody looked like, wow, this is an incredible experience. But yeah, I really admire what he's doing because he seems to really, he cares about the next generation of artists.
Yes.
Like, he takes time to visit studios, he takes time to meet them and to share their work. Like, you're saying that, like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe that happened. It was just remarkable.
Can you see that? It says 2 young voices of the art future.
Yeah, me and Laura. Yeah, it was just incredible experience.
Yeah. I mean, this guy is an amazing character and a lovable character too, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So before I go on to the next one, I want to talk to you about the grant that you received.
Right.
Which is the Pollock Krasner Foundation grant, which is not only highly prestigious, but it's also extremely valuable. Could you talk us through that before we move on?
Yeah, that was...
And what it means and so on.
Oh, absolutely. That was an incredible, life-changing experience. That was the one grant that I knew that I really wanted to get. So I spent a very long time applying for it, thinking about what I was going to include for about a year. And then finally, when I completed the application, which is a standard application, doesn't take a year to complete, I submitted it. And a year later, I found out that I received this life-changing grant. I got like enough funds. I got $30,000 to spend the entire year working in the studio. It was the most amazing experience. It felt like it really validated everything I've been working for in the past 7 or 8 years in my art career in New York. So to have that behind me meant the world.
I think at the time there was about 125 recipients in the entire world.
Yeah, that's correct.
I won the privilege, I should say.
Yes.
Now, as we get into your work, okay, I want to kind of introduce the way we're doing it in a number of areas. One is that whilst we all find it very difficult to make a living out of art, there are certain things that work for people. And I think one of the things that works for you seems to be set design.
Yes.
And that type of work. which is completely separate to your normal practice.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah.
so could we talk through that first, and then we'll move on to your other work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the set design came about. I've always kind of been in production. My dad's a DP, so it was kind of natural. And oh yes, this is also from the art fairs. This is from Armored Week, just to show like how crazy the networking scene is there. Like, it's just remarkable. Yeah, just to be able to be a part of that. And there's me, Laura, the recent art fair this year before COVID, right before we made it.
Sorry, they were slightly misplaced, but now
yeah.
we're into what we were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, here I'm working on this giant set for a coach. Yeah, we were creating like these sandy flats to put down as the floor. And the next image shows the final result of that. There's the final shot. So like all those sandy plates they're walking on, we were creating in the studio or in the shop, and then they created the build right there. But yeah, it's been a remarkable experience just to build worlds. I mean, that's what I love to do with my own work, but to be on a crew and to learn all these different techniques and creatively problem solve, it's fulfilling in the same way as my art is, but also very different. And here is working on the Rockettes, the Spring Spectacular show they did. We created all these giant floral props just to put at the base for the dancers.
And I think we now have a shot of that, haven't we?
Yeah. Yep, there it is.
So all the backdrop and everything, you would have been involved in the design.
I was creating it, yeah.
Yep.
I was one of the people they hired to build.
Very
Definitely. Oh, yep, and here we are working on a Super Bowl commercial.
Right.
Yeah, trying to find any way I can to paint this molding. A lot of it requires a lot of figuring out, like, how can I paint that top corner 20 feet high? Or, it's a surprising job.
Very good.
Yep, and then there's Puppy Bowl, which is like the most rewarding job. These adorable puppies.
The Super Bowl for puppies, is it?
Yeah, it's so cute. Animal Planet does it, and I helped with the build. The shops I work for, we did like they fabricated this set, and then we painted everything. I go in after with the painting. Yeah, they were so cute. Just getting to see all the kittens during the kitty halftime show, like, oh my gosh, it's just a wonderful show.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one area of your life, and then we move into another area.
Perfect. Okay, so I wanted to start with this. This is my earliest work. This is my ballpoint series. And I started with this because in college, at Hampshire College, my professors were seeing that I love to describe light with charcoal, but they suggested that perhaps I use ballpoint to create the same, like render all the different tone. And to build up charcoal blacks with ballpoint was the best challenge I was given. So I started to describe it with circles. I figured out that that was my favorite language to build this light and to render it. So here I did this whole series about the galaxy using Hubble imagery and kind of my own thoughts on it. But yeah, this is a 3 feet by 4 foot piece. Wow. And you can see the detail on the bottom. Every little pinpoint of light between the circles is like a different star. So at even a microscopic level, you see the space. It's just, it works from close, from far. I was thinking a lot about scale. Yeah, I just loved getting lost in this universe.
Now, are you using a standard ballpoint pen there, like a biro?
I was using a Bic. Yeah, I love the Bics.
The Bic, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's nothing special. It's a ballpoint pen.
Correct. Yeah, anyone can use it, and just using that circular technique over and over became very meditative.
Do you use a type of paper that it works well with?
I do. I use Arches watercolor paper, right. Cold press. But I have since switched from Bic to Parker pen because I found that Parker pens are actually archival. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
I have a fancy pen now. Here's another one from that series. This was from an archival pen as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed just kind of the fine circular lines, getting kind of almost like hair in some parts, but so much detail you can get. I love these.
Colleen, are you planning this in your head beforehand, or do you have a design beforehand, or are you literally just going from one place to the next and deciding as you go along?
It's a mix of both. For this particular piece, I was looking at a Hubble imagery of Orion. So you have the nebula on the bottom left. So I had those kind of like pinpoints, but everything that happened around them, kind of all those different clusters, that all came organically from the circles, just seeing where the strokes ended up and resolving it. So yeah, I love that mix. And then here, this next one was from right after that series. I went to my first residency in upstate New York, Better Farm, and it was just such a wonderful experience. I just moved to New York, but I wanted to go out and see what it was like at a residency, and I was on the water a lot. So during this beautiful summer, like paradise, like swimming and everything, I started thinking about the light on the water and how to capture the different waves as they were rolling. Same with the circles and the stars, like how do I bring this to earth? How do I bring it to water? So with that inquiry, I started to figure out kind of a different language for the water and really got into it. Like this one's 16 by 20 inches, so I'm still getting pretty close to the paper in this little world. And it kind of almost felt like I was on the water and the waves are moving as I was working on it.
And were you doing this at the time when you had your funding?
No, actually, this was before. Yeah,
Before that. Okay,
this was much before. This was, yeah, and this work is in Pierogi Gallery in Lower East Side, Manhattan.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. And then the next one, yeah, I took it even further. I wanted to see how well I could render like more concrete light and form in space. So I moved into, this one was an image of a park actually, Hampshire College, my view at the time, but made much later in New York. So I created, this is one of my largest ballpoints. It's almost 3 by 4 feet and it's on panel. And just, it took so long to get it to be that rich black, but the result was just really rewarding. And with this series, I wanted to mention, you see the top, there's my hand touching it. I put drafting film over the top and I was thinking about memory. It was inspired by a series I did about Alzheimer's and about how my grandmother was one of the many people in my life who had this disease. And I did a picture of her and I covered it with drafting film and you had to reach out to touch her to see. So by that act of reaching out to touch the drawing, that keeps the memory alive. And so that's what I was thinking about in this series as well. But what an incredible thing for me when I showed this piece in the show and people reached out to touch the face of my grandmother. Like, I didn't realize how much that would affect me at the time, but it really made an impact.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, lovely. Lovely.
Mm.
Wow, that's very powerful.
Yes. So this was the next series. I'm always kind of trying to figure out how far I can challenge myself with the mediums, and I wanted to work much bigger. So this one's 4 by 6 feet, and it's in marker. So I was translating media just a little bit, but working with the circles still to do this series. And this series was the abandoned series. It was about this little abandoned barn from Austin, Texas. It's near my family home, near where I am right now, actually. And I put this barn in all these different scenes because it became my personal symbol for my journey of personal transformation. So it started, I realized I identified with this poor little sad abandoned farmhouse. Being an older sister and having sibling rivalry, I really wanted to play up the overdramatic and childlike dynamic there and get it all out, like all the drama of this. So this one perhaps like is even about a new baby being born, like this giant torso of this form of the storm coming up behind this unsuspecting little barn in its field. So I really had a lot of fun with it, playing with those ideas on a larger scale.
And Colleen, is the barn the same barn that you have a model of in your studio?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's my barn. I brought it to New York.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah. And the next slide shows this in a little more detail. So you can see it's still the same circular technique again.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And I did a lot of...
You nearly expect to see a few cattle going around. And the odd car. And
they're in there somewhere, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all that drama. Another one from the series, this was a small ballpoint version release. Yeah, thinking about kind of letting go. And this is, again, with my circles and ballpoint, but I wanted to translate this to ink. I wanted to see what I could do when I can make it large scale, but not just to marker, which I could render circles in, but something a little more loose and more fluid. So the next one shows it actually large scale, yeah, India ink on paper. And this one meant so much to me. I remember I showed it at a show and I almost didn't want to leave it there on the wall. It's like, I'll be back for you. Like I identified and cared about this piece so much. It really captured what I wanted with the series.
So sorry, you do this in ink as against the
Yeah.
photograph, is that it?
Yes, yeah. So that was another wonderful challenge and that I enjoyed.
Very good.
And then here's that piece along with many others in the series that I show at an event at ACA Galleries in Chelsea. Yeah, and then there on the back wall, the barn has found new purpose as a treehouse.
Yes.
So not all the moments in the series are dramatic and sad.
Very good. Very good. Okay.
And this was another one in the series. This one's about the, you saw this in the studio. It's the size of my wall, 10 feet. And here's the little barn at the very bottom, like almost insignificant in the scale of importance in the universe. But I just kind of wanted to play with that idea of where we are in this grand scheme of things and kind of place you in that to like look up and look around and see all these stars. But this one took about 2 years to make. I was just in there working as much as I could on it for like 8-hour days, just creating, again, those circles, but with ink and watercolor, excuse me. Yeah. And also, we're mentioning the Krasner grant. This whole body of work is the one I submitted to the grant and was accepted. And then here's the model barn. Yeah, I wanted to kind of challenge myself again to work more immediate, like to capture that light that I just so loved, but with much quicker. So I created this model barn in the studio to work from, and had so much fun lighting it and creating kind of overdramatic lighting, theatrical even. It kind of feeds into my day job as well, to just kind of build that experience of this moody barn series. And then
like
I was
lights in the background, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was a little setup that I built, a diorama. Some techniques that I learned from my dad. And the next one shows actually the results of that series. So these are my monotypes series in the abandoned series. And yeah, so for these, I was capturing that kind of glowing light and the drama of the larger works, but kind of on a more subtle and emotive scale. And this was really freeing for me technically, because you seem like I spend so much time tightly rendering all of these forms. To move from that to something so loose and unpredictable, like when you transfer it from the plate, you have no control over if it succeeds or fails. So it's always a surprise, like what comes out. So things that transferred really were delightful and wonderful for me. So I worked on this series for a bit, and the next one shows the completion of that series. And I completed the series during the Paul Krasner grant year. Yeah, here the barn finally explodes. Like, it lets go of its shell, it releases it, and it's back to this floating kind of ball of light in landscape. So that's kind of when I let go of the form again and wanted to really explore the next phase, like see where it would take me.
Very good.
And this is the next direction when I'm moving away from the barn into more weather. This is actually the view outside of my studio of the East River. So Manhattan's back there somewhere, but it's fine, you can't see it. Yeah, so I started to think about how I could translate from the monotypes to oils, and like think about how I could work even larger than the plate size by transferring media once again to work with painting. So I moved into the next slide, which is about my current series, which is about storms.
Yes.
So here, this one is 16 by 20 inches. It's in oils. And I was using, again, those same kind of wiping techniques that I really enjoyed with Monotype, but this time in paint. And was really like delighted and surprised by the effect. Like I didn't know that it would turn out this way, but it was pretty wonderful. So I started doing a lot of work like this, like the next slide, even bigger. This one's 36 by 48 inches, and still like I'm documenting the storms outside my apartment in Brooklyn and showing the light in the sky and kind of thinking of over the ocean, maybe just that drama. Okay, so then once again, taking this further, how much larger can I work? So the next piece that I did was actually on my studio wall. So you saw before that Starry Night image is 10 feet tall. This one is that tall and much wider, 18 feet wide. So I did this piece because I had to leave my studio. It was finally time. In Brooklyn, things are always changing. And I had to take down this wall between studios. So I wanted to work larger anyway, and I realized like maybe I could create a mural in like 4 days before I move out. So I spent exactly 4 days creating this on the wall and using latex paints, like again, back to the mediums that I'm working on when I'm building sets and things. And it was pretty remarkable, like during this pretty crazy year of changes, weather was the perfect subject for me. So even while I'm creating this, it's an August day last year and the storms are happening outside. Because as I finish it, this like wild thunderstorm comes through. It was like, whoa, like everything's in sync here. And I had a couple moments of that during the series. I even did a storm piece, a sound piece to go with the work. And I was presenting it to friends in the Crit Club. I'm part of this New York Crit Club group, phenomenal. And right before I was about to present, this giant like bolt of lightning comes and thunder strikes. I'm like, wait, did my piece start? Like I really thought that my presentation had begun and somebody pressed the play button, but no, it was already happening outside. So I love those moments. So then moving on from that, the next phase is I went to Kilrelly last fall, where I was there with you, with Autumn, with Jacques, with Jennifer, with Owen. Oh gosh, it was just the most remarkable experience of my life, like so magical. So I'm there and I'm thinking about the forces at work on a space, like thinking about the weather overhead, like the crazy storms that we got in from the Atlantic, the wind and the rain and the sleet. And I figured, like, what if I put this sheet of Yupo paper, which is a plastic paper, it's so great. It doesn't absorb anything. It's just, you paint directly on it and it keeps it. So I painted it with acrylic and I left it outside in the weather just to see what would happen. And I got these beautiful results. So just like thinking about like where I'm going from in the beginning of my career, like really meticulous creating these forms, to like letting the rain actually participate in my work, like totally submitting to that. And yeah, so this was the result. And of course, I tried to find a really beautiful name to describe these. And I don't want to mispronounce such a beautiful word in Irish, but this one means the sound of pelting rain on a roof. Maybe you could help me with saying that. But
my guess is that is Clagarnock.
Ah, that's beautiful. Yes, that. It right? Just, yeah, that's. I'm sure that's it. Yeah.
In the absence of Owen McLaughlin.
I know.
Who jumped down my throat.
Yeah.
But
I just thought that. Yeah, I really thought it beautifully described that feeling, that sound that the rain would make.
Lovely.
Thank you. Yeah. And the next one, I've got a couple more. Yes, these are the examples of more work that I completed while at the residency. One night I went out and I looked and the moon was rising over the bay. So just thinking about that glow and the light and the weather, I used a couple different images I took to kind of compose this, and this happened. And then the next one is also of the storms over the ocean. Like we got that incredible hurricane the first weekend. I had like rain coming in, but it was so wild. So looking out over the bay when we're on the way to Karsavine and seeing the skelligs, like you can kind of see them here in this painting. They're very small. They're at the very bottom, like hidden far away. So these tiny, like powerful the islands are there in this crazy chaotic weather, like all these forces at work. You got the ocean, the storms, the light, like it was just so powerful. So I really wanted to capture that, thinking about that.
Magnificent.
Thank you. And then these are also from the Storm series, but this is kind of a different direction I was taking it. During the Pollock Krasner grant year, I really did use it as the time to explore. I was like, okay, I have all this time. Like, where do I want to take my work next? So moving into painting, I was also missing working in full palette. I hadn't done that since college. So I actually contacted a dear friend of mine, Peter Roux, who's an amazing painter. Just, oh my gosh, his work is phenomenal. And I took some virtual tutor lessons, art lessons with him. And so working with him, thinking about color and light and kind of filling in my gaps in knowledge in oil painting. After that, I was able to produce like this kind of work. And I couldn't believe it when I created this one. Like figuring out my own language with paint. They kind of went along with my drawing techniques. Yeah, so this was the result of that year, that time. And the next one is also from Kilrelly there. Yes, the hill above our residency, and just those beautiful clouds and that wind coming over the fields. And I painted that one while I was there. So that's kind of how I got to where I am now.
Yeah.
And these are all from this year. You've seen some of these in the back, not this one, but this one sold. But I'm really grateful to not be in my Brooklyn apartment right now because I have access to this beautiful nature around me. So I've been going out to the nearby trail and just painting like every morning I can before the weather gets a bit too hot here in Texas. Yeah, so these are results of that. And I took this great 2-week painting marathon class with the New York Studio School while I'm here in Austin. It was remarkable. And that really helped me to think more and focus on color and color relationships. So that was really exciting because then when I applied that and started thinking about that with what I love about light in my work, I got these really surprising results for me. And they're really quick too. I have to only like a few hours before the light changes. The ones on the left are all done that very fast. And then the one on the right, I spent a couple days going out to the same scene before it got too hot. And then, yes, that's where I'm at now. Yes. And I've also been working on this sketchbook for the Sketchbook Project, this wonderful library of sketchbooks in Brooklyn, New York. So here's images. I've been doing a visual diary of our time at Kilrelly. So this is, Jacques so kindly drove me from Dublin to the residency. So this was the view here of our way, like through this tree tunnel on the way. And then the first sighting of the little cottage right there on the mountain.
You had a bit of a garden and all sorts of things there, didn't you?
A garden? Oh, I guess I did. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I could look out from every window and see the ocean. Yeah, that was remarkable. It really did get a lot of the weather too, which is perfect. Did they give me this on purpose? But yeah, then that's the view of the Skelligs and the other mountains, islands. Yeah. And then there's just one more from that series. Yeah, kind of the open road on the way to Karsavine.
Oh, is that what that is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I think that's it, is it?
Yep, that's everything.
That's great. Thanks very much for that, Colleen.
Thank you so much, Alan. I'm so glad I could share that with you.
Yeah, no, it's tremendous. And I mean, what we've done there is we've taken the best part of a dozen years.
Yeah, of a decade.
Condensed it into this time. And it's just remarkable, you know, what you've done and what you've achieved in that time. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
So well done you. Well done. Have you any plans for the future now, Colleen? You know, where are you off to now? Right.
Well, next year I have 2 more residencies coming up. I have one it's called Playa, and Jennifer actually told me about it, recommended me, and that's going to be in the Great Basin in Oregon. So I'm really excited for that one, just to be in that natural terrain. And then the other one's in Wyoming at Gentile, and that will be for a month next fall, I believe. So I'm excited for those. And I have a solo show coming up in Houston at Redbud Gallery that got postponed until next year. So I have that to look forward to as well.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Are you doing any online stuff?
Online stuff?
Yeah.
Well, not really, I guess. Mm-hmm. Oh yes, that's right. I have a couple up right now. One with Flat File Gallery, and also one Room with a View, which is this beautiful curated one of all the people in my landscape painting group. So from the class, New York Studio School. So yeah, I have a couple right now.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, at this stage, I think we could ask for questions. So if anyone has any questions, now is your time to ask. I haven't been reading the chat. Maybe I should do that. Sorry. Dennis, intriguing, especially the Storm and Barnes series. Many thanks, Colleen.
Thank you, Dennis.
But we'll tune into the recording. Many thanks. That's from Dennis. Brigitte has said, the journey through the different mediums is really interesting. The challenges and the scales. Beautiful work.
Thank you. Thank you, Brigitte.
Okay, I know you're all very, very shy, but I know some of you aren't. There are exceptions. So will I unmute everybody? Is that the best thing to do? Unmute all. Okay, so I've unmuted everybody. Yes, I have. So don't all talk at one time, but just, you know.
Oh my gosh, it's so great to see you all.
I'll go.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hi.
go, Jennifer.
So, do you see life continuing in New York? And if you go back, like, maybe it's too early to even ask it, but how do you kind of see your work moving or all that back in your kind of phase 2 in New York?
You're right. Yeah, that is the question, right? Well, ever since you did the residency, I really felt compelled to be out of the city more, like be around nature. So my plans already were to kind of keep New York as where I go to show and to connect with friends, but to really spend as much time as I could out in nature traveling. So that's my original plan even before this started. So I guess I'm a little ahead of that by being here for probably about a year. But I do intend on staying connected and still keeping my space there.
Okay, Autumn asks, besides the change of environment, what changes have there been in your artistic focus since arriving in Texas?
Oh, perfect. Yes, I've been really using this time away from the art world, I guess, to figure out what it is I want to learn more about and explore. And so I have been spending a lot of time just being out in nature and just letting go of kind of all the concepts and ideas, just focusing on technique and building that immediate connection to what I'm painting. So having that time has just been remarkable. It's really a surprisingly special year.
Colleen, I'm just wondering, when there is a storm that happens and it goes into the house,
Yeah.
specific place to put your artwork and your all the artwork into so that it doesn't affect any of the art?
Oh yeah, and when that happened, it was the first weekend, and I only came through the door, so it was over just like a little drip. But I fixed it up right away, taped it up, and put cloth, so it wasn't an issue. But yeah, I was kind of cautious in the back because there are those stones, and I was warned that perhaps sometimes it drips on the work. But I just kept it out of the spot that I knew that that might happen in, and it was just fine.
Great, thank you.
Not too worried about the damp.
Anybody else who loves in Ireland, anyway?
Colleen, I haven't seen the work. Hi, I haven't seen the work you did while you were away on residency. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it.
Thank you, Laura.
Do you find that working with the paint now in your environment is an immediate way to access like that essence, that feeling, or do you think the ink is more immediate?
That's a good question. Right now I'm really going between the two a lot. So I really want to get there as fast as possible so I can capture that exact moment, the light. And I'm still learning some things that I want to learn in paint, so it's not quite immediate enough for where I want it to be. So ink is definitely the natural one where I'm just in zone, I know what I'm doing, and I could just, create that moment. But I have been enjoying that challenge of getting the paint to where I want it to be to create that.
Awesome, I love yellow. It's beautiful.
Anybody else?
Very strong.
Thanks, Frank. Gosh, so great to see you. It's great to see everyone. I'm so happy you're here.
I wanted to say something about Colleen's work.
Sure, Vincent, off you go.
The thing that I love about her is she captures this luminous quality that I think is so powerful. And I see it time and again come up in her work. And it's just such a great thing. The light and this luminosity. And she also has this great way of using minimal sort of subjects, and they're very powerful. And you see it in the barn, you see it in the storms. And so you've got this monumental quality. And then there's this great luminosity, which just, I think it works so well with her work.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Vincent. Thank you. I'm glad it comes across.
Hi, could I say something?
Of course, Yvonne, off you go.
Thank you. I just noticed that a lot of the people who are looking in, maybe from American, that have been, and yourself, Alan, have been down in Kilreelig. Mm-hmm. And it's, I'm absolutely in awe of all of you because you have such interesting work. I would just like to say that I haven't done any residencies, and I'm here in my own studio in Dublin, and I'm working on my own and feel a bit isolated. And where is Colleen? There she is. Yeah, okay, coming up. Hi. And listening to you and looking at your varied work, I'm really inspired, actually, and very interested in listening to you and how you work in all the different places and how you get your themes and your subject matters. And I actually identify with you a lot because I do pen and ink, I do line drawings, I do paint, and for me, I feel sometimes that they're disassociated and that I'm all over the place. And I also haven't got your marketing skills or confidence of how to get out there, you know, and I admire that you've done all of that. And did you say you had a day job as well, or no?
I work freelance as a scenic painter, so that was the examples from
I see.
the photo shoots and the fashion and things. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. So, and I love the way you just go back to kind of what you're doing now in Texas, that you're going back to just more technique and going out there into nature, and you're forgetting the productivity, really. You just want to experience things. So I'm just very interested and very inspired. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for that, Yvonne. I think Yvonne, you're being far too modest.
I'm not.
You are. Firstly, we did feature you in one of our episodes, and
you did.
You gave a sterling performance.
Oh my goodness, I didn't.
Don't buy that.
I was your guinea pig at that stage.
You were, in fairness. Yes.
Yeah.
You were, but you did a very fine job.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in your case, Yvonne, from what I know of you, you're a very experimental artist. You know, you blend your photography into all sorts of different techniques.
But,
and I think
but maybe a jack of all trades and a master of none, then you say.
Well, I think you have to do that in order to find your niche.
Yeah.
Do you know? You know, it just doesn't. And besides, what you have done, I mean, has been remarkable and very unique. And the more you play around with different processes and techniques, I think that's how people get their uniqueness. You know, I don't think you can invent it. I think it has to come to you.
But I'd love to be able to get it out more, you know.
Would you agree with that, Colleen?
Yeah.
Yes, I would. You're just building up your toolkit in every new medium. It's like, how can I use this now? How can I use this later? Like, it all feeds into the next thing. It's remarkable.
That's it, exactly, yeah. Okay, anybody else want to ask a question or make a comment?
One comment.
Sure.
You've just inspired me to apply for grants.
Yes, do it. You got this. I'm for it.
I have dreams of leaving my day job, so I'm like, I've got all this time right now, you know? This is the perfect time to just look and think and apply all over the place. So
Good point, Jennifer. Good point.
And how do you do that? I'm wondering.
Each one has its own application, and they're very specific about what they want. Even they have like the FAQ and everything, or the frequently asked questions. So yeah, you just go online and you can search for them. In New York, we have NYFA, New York Foundation for the Arts. That's actually how I found out about Corelli years ago.
Yeah, there probably are resources like that have a directory of things on there, because I know there's one that I subscribe to, and it basically it tells you about open competitions for exhibitions. I don't know whether you've come across that. I'm sure there are a few of them, but no, they do exist. So it's just a question of Googling, Yvonne, I reckon.
Yeah, thank you.
There's actually a more simple way of doing it. If you're a member of VAI, all you have to do, you don't even have to be a member. You just subscribe to their weekly mailing list. And once a week, there's an email that lists basically every application grant under the sun. So,
Olivia, I know of that. I'm a member actually of VAI, you know, but I feel that a lot of things aren't actually relevant to me because they are installations and they are, you know, they're far advanced, or they're far, I don't know, maybe not on my level, you know. I don't feel they're very relevant to me at the moment. That's
right. Well, there's a good diversity. I mean, I receive them every week and I pass them on to my artists. Some of them are quite quite sort of not that cutting edge. That's what you're worried about.
Yes. Exactly.
VAI is actually quite good at really summarizing them all. In my experience, you know, there's a lot. It's just there's a lot of information to go through, and it's discipline. I think myself sometimes I miss out of them, you know, and I'm sure artists are like this as well. Like, what do I bother, you know? But I spend about an hour every week trying to go through those bulletins. And just to see, and that's from a gallery's point of view, but just to see which ones would be relevant to my artists. But I know it's
I do try to do that, you know. Yeah.
For the VAI, that's for those of you who may not know, is the Visual Artists Ireland, and it's a sort of representative body for artists. And they do all sorts of things like taxation advice, you know, workshops, all that sort of stuff. But they do also.
I've gone to the conference actually last. Yes. Oh, it's
John,
very interesting.
I'm sure there's an equivalent in America, isn't there?
Comment.
Yes, Hannah.
No, it's Autumn.
Oh, Autumn. Sorry, Autumn.
Hi there. I just wanted to say that it was truly astonishing work. I mean, the amount of variety of form and mediums, and with this beautiful spirit shining through all of it, I was just so moved. I was literally in tears here, looking at especially a lot of your early work, which I'd not seen, and then seeing how it, you know, created the person that I got to know so well. Absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Autumn.
Thanks, Autumn. That's very kind of you. Absolutely, and I think you're just a radiant character, and with oodles of personality, and it does show through in your work. Any other questions now before we wrap up? No? Okay, I think we wrap up. So, Colleen, what can I say? I mean, you're just a delight. It was a pleasure having you. And thank you for inviting your buddies from the States along as well, which was great to meet them. Yeah. And I know I'll be talking to you again soon, but thank you so much. It's a pleasure. I know you put a huge amount of effort into that, and a special thanks to your dad.
Yes, thanks.
On your studio tour there, and all the effort you've gone to display your work. You're fabulous, and you put so much into it, and I do appreciate it. And I know I speak for everybody else in saying that too. Okay.
Thank you.
So you're welcome to stay on after this if you want to have a private chat. We'll stop the recording, and thank you everybody for listening. And tune in for next week, where we've got a chap who's quite well known, and he's an artist too, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. So thanks again, Colleen, and goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Colleen.
Yeah.
Thank you.